Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Commander Dive. Today we are doing Rendmaw, the Creaking Nest. Really excited about this one. Let's get into it. I'm Adam. This is Commander Tax. Rendmaw, the Creaking Nest is 3, a black and a green. For a legendary artifact creature, Scarecrow. It's got Menace Reach, it's a 5/5, and when it enters and whenever you play a card with 2 or more card types, each player creates a tap 2/2 black bird creature token with flying. The tokens are goaded for the rest of the game. So I actually tried to build this previously. I tried to do kind of a group hug theme. There's just not enough support for that. And so I kind of scrapped it and I came back to it because I found a theme that really works well with this, and it's actually black artifact creatures and then also black and green enchantment creatures. So that's what we got going on today. Let's get into that first category, artifact creatures. First card today is Imhotep, the Stormlord. So this is a Warhammer 40k. It's 2 and 2 black for a Necron, which is an artifact creature. This one's legendary, and it says, whenever one or more artifact creatures leave your graveyard, create 2/2 black Necron warrior artifact creature tokens. Got a lot of recursion in this deck, so we're going to get a bunch of 2/2 Necron warriors. And then it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, another target artifact creature, and we're going to have a lot of them, you control get +2/+2 and gain menace until end of turn. So it gives them some evasion, gives them a little bit of pump. This is a really good card and a commander in its own right, but we're just running this in the 99. Now we've got Sarzak, the Silent King. I think I butchered that name, but it's 1 and 3 black pips for a Necron, another artifact creature. It's got flying, it's a 3/4, and it says whenever it attacks, mill 3 cards. You can put an artifact creature card or vehicle card. There's no vehicles in this. From among the cards milled this way into your hand. Really cool. Little bit of mill and allow you to take something into your hand. We do have a few delirium cards, so being able to mill is going to be really advantageous for us. Not a ton of mill in this. This isn't a mill deck, but having a little bit of mill is going to allow us to meet that requirement. All right, now we have Blitzwing, Cruel Tormentor. This is 5 and a black, or for more than meets the eye, you can play it for 3 and a black. And it says at the beginning of your end step, target opponent loses life equal to the life that player lost this turn. So basically, it's a damage doubler. And then it says if no life is lost this way, convert Blitzwing. When Blitzwing is converted, he is a 3/5 vehicle, but it's living metal, so I guess technically there's a vehicle, but it's living metal, so it's an artifact creature. And it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, choose flying or indestructible at random. So that means roll dice. You can say evens, it's a flying, odds, it's indestructible, however you want to do it. Or flip a coin, whatever. And then it gains that ability until end of turn. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, convert it. So you're going to get 3 damage, probably some form of, evasion here or indestructible. Most likely you're going to hit at least 50% of the time. So you're going to do at least 6 damage because you're going to flip it over and it's going to double the damage at the end of your turn. So really good card for this and just a fun one because it is a transformer. All right, next up we have another transformer card. This one is Starscream, Power Hungry. This is 3 and a black, or for more than meets the eye, it's 2 and a black. I really love this card because basically it is just a monarch card that ensures that you're monarch and allows you to get 2 cards each turn, unless this gets removed, in which case then, yeah, you're probably going to have to get it the hard way. But anyways, it's flying. Whenever you draw a card, if you're the monarch, target opponent loses 2 life. So this is a little bit of drain effect. And then it says whenever one or more creatures deal combat damage to you, convert Starscream. So this is like someone stole the monarch from you, you convert him. And this comes in really handy because when you convert him, living metal, it's a 2/3, and it's got flying, menace, and haste. So it's got 2 forms of evasion. So it's going to allow you to hit that person back. And the haste is going to allow it so as soon as it comes to your turn, you don't have to wait. You can also just play this to guarantee that you're going to get the monarch the turn that you play this. So you play this for more than meets the eye. And then it comes over on the flip side, you hit, and then it says whenever you deal combat damage to a player, if there's no monarch, that player becomes the monarch. Whenever you become the monarch, convert Starscream. So basically, you play this for more than meets the eye, You get the menace and the flying. You hit someone, you become the monarch, you flip him over, and then you get the other side. So, which is going to allow you to drain at least 2 life from all your opponents. Really cool card for this deck, and a really fun Transformer card. The Swarm Weaver. So this is 2, a black and a green for another Scarecrow. This is a legendary artifact creature. This is, if you saw my tier list, a low tier commander, but it is actually a high tier card. I really like this card in this deck. It's when it enters, create 2 1/1 black and green insect creature tokens with flying, so you get some flyers. And then as long as there are 4 or more card types, it's got Delirium. In your graveyard, insects and spiders you control get +1/+1 and have Death Touch. So this allows you to basically give those flying insects 1/1 and Death Touch. So they're 2/2 flying Death Touch. You could really pair this well with Hornet Queen. And then there's a few other cards this really pairs well with. You know, maybe I was a little harsh on this card in my tier list, but it is actually pretty cool. I don't know if it's good enough for a commander, but goes really well in an insect and spider deck or a delirium deck, which is kind of not really delirium, but we are going to have 4 types. So this works to have some solid blockers, and it's got those 2 types to give everybody birds. All right, moving on, we have Cyberman Patrol. This is 2 generic, and it says artifact creatures you control have Afflict 3. This is a Doctor Who card, and it says Afflict is whenever a creature with Afflict becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life, because it's Afflict 3. If it's 2, they'd lose 2 life, 1 life, so on and so forth. So basically, this is going to make it so that they don't want to block you, or they're going to take 3 damage. Just a really solid 2-cost creature. That's an artifact creature that has the 2 types. It's going to give birds. And so for all your birds that you create, because the birds don't just get created for your opponents, it actually says each player, so you're going to get birds as well. And that is the end of our artifact creatures. Let's look at our enchantment creatures. Our first enchantment creature here is Night Howler. This is 1 and 2 black pips for enchantment creature horror. It's got Bestow for 2 and 2 black pips. That means you can cast this as an aura for 4 if you'd rather have it as an aura and equipped to a creature, or you can pay just the 3 and it's a creature on its own. But it and enchanted creature each get +X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards. Since we have a recursion theme going on in this deck, we're going to have probably a lot of creatures in our graveyard. We're not doing a ton of mill, but we do have a little bit of mill, and things just naturally die in a game of Commander. So this is a nice little pump spell for our creatures, and it meets the 2 types to give everybody a bird. Next up, we have Mind Rack Harpy. This is 3 and a black, so this is one of our mill cards. This is a flying 3/2. It's got an enchantment creature, so the beginning of combat on your turn, each player mills 3 cards. So it's going to mill everybody. So having a little bit of mill against your opponents is never bad, but having it for us is going to be even better. So it allows us to fulfill that delirium and also gives us recursion targets for our stuff. All right, now we have Demon of Fate's Design. I've talked about this card before, but this is such a good card, I want to talk about it again. It's 4 and 2 black pips for a enchantment creature demon. It's a 6/6 flying trample. Once each of your turns, you may cast an enchantment spell by paying life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. So we do have a strong sub-theme of life gain in this deck, so being able to use some of that life as a resource to cast enchantments is going to be really good. All right, now we have Nightmare Shepherd. This is 2 and 2 black pips for another enchantment creature demon. This one's a 4/4, perfectly statted. It's got flying, also great. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1, and it's a nightmare in addition to its other types. So this is going to allow us to get 2 triggers for our Rendmaw to create even more birds, and also allow our creatures to stick to the board and continue to give us benefit based on their text. So really cool card for this deck and works really well with Rendmaw. All right, next up we have Nyx Weaver, 1 a black and a green. This is reach at the beginning of your upkeep, mill 2 cards. So this is going to allow us to do a little bit of milling, and then you can pay 1 black green and exile it to return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's got recursion and it's got mill, it's built in, and it's an enchantment creature. So it's doing a lot of what we want to do. And for a low cost creature, it's a 2/3. It's what we're looking for in this deck, and just a great value creature here. Next up, we have Springheart Nantuko. This is 1 in a green. Bestow cost is the same. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1. But really, what we're loving about this is the landfall trigger. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 and a green. If it's attached to a creature you control, you get to create a token that's a copy of that creature. If you don't have it attached, then you just create a 1/1 green insect. Well, now if we go back to that other card, it gives our insects death touch and +1/+1. So even if you just play this out on its own, it's going to have value with that card. But in general, just allowing us to copy our creatures and create tokens of them is going to be awesome. That's the end of the enchantment creatures. Let's move on to Recursion. The first card we're going to talk about here is Recur the Traveler. Not sure if I said that right. It's 4 and a black, legendary artifact creature, Necron, another Warhammer 40k card, and it says, when it attacks, you may cast an artifact spell from your hand or graveyard by paying life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. This is very similar to Demon of Fate's Desire, except that it allows us to play from our graveyard and it's artifact creatures. So another really great card to allow us to play stuff for free and use that life as a resource. Next up, we've got Oversold Cemetery. I love this card. It's 1 and a black, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So this is continual recursion. I love having that in Commander, just stuff that you put on the board and continues to give you value. Next up, we have Gloom Shrieker. This is 1 black-green for an enchantment creature. Cat Beast, Menace 2/1. Not statted very well, but when it enters the battlefield, you return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If this would die, exile it instead. So this is a great recursion piece for 3 mana and an enchantment creature to allow us to get some more birds. All right, now we have a card called Reap. This is an older card. I believe this is Tempest. 1 and a green. Return any number of target cards from your graveyard to your hand. You cannot choose more cards than the number of black permanents target opponents control. So the thing is, all the birds that you're giving your opponents, they're all black. So you're going to get a ton of value on this if you play this late in the game and all these black birds are on the field. You could draw, 5 cards out of your graveyard, which is going to be spectacular late in the game. Next up, we have Virtue of Persistence. This is got 1 and a black for a sorcery. Target creature gets -3 until end of turn. You gain 2 life. And then you can pay 7 at the beginning of your upkeep. Put target creature card from a graveyard on the battlefield under your control. Going back to Demon of Fate's Design, I would rather pay 7 life and play this for free than use my mana. So this is a really expensive card, but we do have a couple ways to cheat it out. And it's got a ton of value once you get on the board. At the beginning of your upkeep, you get to continually take something from a graveyard. So then you have to be your graveyard and put it on the battlefield. So this continual recursion. And if this sticks on the board for a couple turns, it's going to give you a ton of value. That's the end of the recursion category. Let's move on to everything else. Our first card in everything else is going to be Beastmaster Ascension. This is 2 and a green, and whenever a creature you control attacks, and since all of our creatures are goated, which they can't attack me, well, your own creatures can't attack you anyways, they still have to attack. So you can put a quest counter on Beastmaster Ascension, so you're going to get a bunch of counters on this very quickly. And as long as it has 7 or more quest counters on it, creatures you control get +5/+5. So now all your birds are 7/7. And nobody's going to be able to deal with that. Almost a win con in this deck. Next up, we have Demolisher Spawn. It's 5 and 2 green pips. Pretty high CMC card here. It's a horror 7/7, trample haste, so that's really good. Whenever it attacks, so you're going to get to attack right away. If there are 4 or more card types, which there should be in our graveyard, other attacking creatures get +4/+4, so all of our birds become 6/6s. And it's going to, again, allow us to win. This is a great finisher. All right, now we have Enduring Tenacity. So we have a strong sub-theme of life gain. This is 2 and 2 black pips for a 4/3 enchantment creature, Snake Glimmer. And whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. You could easily put in another card here and get an infinite combo. I'm not going to talk about that because that's not really what I do. But you're going to be able to drain your opponents down with all the life gain you have. And then when this dies, if it was a creature, it returns to the battlefield under its owner's control. It's an enchantment. So this is really hard to remove. It's going to continually just be a thorn in your opponent's sides. All right, now we have the next Enduring card. This is Enduring Vitality. This is 1 and 2 green pips. Same sort of thing, but it's got Vigilance, 3/3, and creatures you control have tap this, add 1 mana of any color. So this can allow us to cheat out our Virtue of Persistence pretty early if we can get a bunch of creatures out on the field, which shouldn't be hard with Rendmaw because you're getting a bunch of black birds. And then when this dies again, it returns to the battlefield as an enchantment. All right, now we have Twitching Doll. This is a cool new Duskmourn card. It's 1 and a green. You can tap it to add 1 mana, so it's got a ramp on it. It's a 2/2. And then you can also put a counter on it when you tap it. And then if you tap this and sack it, you create 2/2 green spiders for each counter you put on it. So you can get a whole bunch of spiders. Goes really well with the Swarm Weaver because, again, it's going to give those 1/1. So there's 3/3s with Death Touch. Really great synergy there, and just a great ramp spell. And also going to give you extra tokens. So just overall a fun card and an exciting one from Duskmourn. That is the end of the everything else category. Let's move on to our last category, which is going to be the 1v1 win. So the problem with Goad is that it relies on at least 3 people being in the game. Once it's down to just you and 1 other person, well, now those Goad creatures can all attack you. So you have to have ways to deal with them and win the game. So the first card here is Winter Blast. This is X and a green. It says tap X target creatures. Winter Blast deals 2 damage to each of those creatures with flying. So you can use this to take out all of your opponent's birds. You'll still have your birds, and then you should be able to swing in and win. Next up, we have Bower's Passage. This is 1 and a green, and it just says creatures with flying can't block creatures you control, so they can't chump block you with their birds. You can swing in with your artifacts and your enchantment creatures, and again, hopefully win the game. All right, now we have Whirlwind, 2 and 2 green pips. It just says destroy all creatures with flying. This can put you both on a level playing field. Just take out all the birds. And then, because none of your other stuff is flying, maybe you actually take out more of their stuff than you do of your own. And hopefully you can swing in, again, win the game. That's the goal here. All right, now we have a real win con here. This is Massacre Worm. This is 3 and 3 black pips. And when it enters, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 until end of turn. So all of their birds are going to die. And then whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, that player loses 2 life. So if they have 10 birds, that's 20 life. Maybe you don't even have to swing in. Maybe you just win outright. Next up, we have Azuri's Predation. This is 5 and 3 green pips, and it says for each creature your opponent controls, create a 4/4 green Phyrexian Beast creature token. Each of those tokens fights a different one of those creatures. So you're going to fight all the birds are going to die. You're still going to have a whole bunch of Phyrexian Beasts. You untap and then win the game. 2 more here. Next up, we have Wingstorm. This is 2 and a green for a sorcery that deals X damage to each player, where X is twice the number of creatures with flying that player controls. So you have a life gain sub-theme. You should have more life than your opponent. So if they have 10 birds, then they will take 20 damage. If you have 10 birds, you'll take 20 damage. But you should have more life, and this should actually drain them out, and you should win the game. And finally, but not least, we got Windshear. This is 2 and a green. All attacking creatures with flying get -2/-2 and lose flying until end of turn. Guess what? All your birds die. So they're attacking all their birds. They lose their birds. You swing in with all your birds. You win. Period. That's it. That is the goal here. Is just it's a one-time effect to tip the scales in your favor. That's the end of the video. I appreciate you guys taking the time to check this out and watch it to the end. If you give me a like and a subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Catch you in the next one. Peace.